Hello everyone, a very good evening. So today I will be sharing with you all the interview round experience for Goa Institute of Management, Goa. So the cutoff for Goa Institute of Management for CAT was 89 percentile, and the cutoff for ZAT was 80 percentile and above. So I really like the process of interview and the selection process conducted for Goa Institute of Management. It was in a really phased manner and an organized manner. There were 3 rounds conducted, that is the VAT, the GD, and also the personal interview round was conducted this year for Goa Institute of Management. And I believe these are conducted every year. And this year also, they continued the same pattern or same trend. Unlike other colleges who dropped the GD or the VAT rounds. So, so the beauty of the process is that in Goa Institute of Management, they conduct an achievers round, which is before the general interview rounds. They give spot offers also to people who are really exceptional. So the achievers round is an interview round where they conduct interview for people who have exceptional profiles. Like if you are scholastically very good, if you are academically, very good in sports, you have done something really remarkable in any co-curricular activity, you have got a gold medal in your college or in a school, you have played for nationals, so for people like for achievers actually they conduct an achievers round, which is conducted I think 2 weeks before the normal interview rounds which are there. So in the achievers round, after the interview process is over, they are called, the people who have been called for achievers round. After the interview process, they are called, they are given spot interview offers. So so they also get a call for the general interview, and if they are selected in the achievers round, they get a spot call. So if they accept the spot call, their admission is finalized in Goa Institute of Management before all the other candidates who have qualified the cutoff and applied for the institute. So this is a really unique project, I think, because none of the other MBA colleges have such a round like an achievers round, and it is I think it's great for people who have done exceptionally well in co-curricular activities, because it enhances or boosts, I think, the boosts the people or the aspirants to also be involved in other activities and other platforms, rather than only being academically and competitively involved in giving exams and giving other these competitions. So this is the whole process actually of Goa Institute of Management. First, they conduct the achievers round. After that, they conduct a general VAT round, that is the written ability test. After the written ability test, you are called for the GD round, that is the group discussion. And after the group discussion, you are called for the personal interview. So let's begin. I was not called for the achievers round. I was called for the general interview rounds. So let's begin with the whole general interview process, that is starting from the VAT, group discussion, and the personal interview. So let me share with you all my screen. So as you can see, I have I have written here what all were asked from the VAT round, from the GD round, and in the interview. So my interview was really short and crisp. So it continued for around, I think, 10 minutes, I think, because I was giving long answers. I think they did not have a lot of time. So they had to wrap up quickly. So for this background, my question was that if I had superpowers. So it's a very interesting, concept. If I had superpowers, and also it is very, it judges your capability as an aspirant, because now you are a grown up. You know, if you're working in a company, you will be an employee of a company. If you are working as a professor or a, in administration, you will be an administrative, or a, professor. People are in the job basically at this stage. People who are, in fresh who are freshers. So yeah, so everybody has a different point of view, different thinking capability. And if I had superpowers, so uh, if you are a person with the right set of thinking, then you will, apply that superpower. You will think of applying that superpower into something greater, rather than applying the superpower into your personal use. So let's say that I am an employee, and if I had superpower and I am having some issues at the company, then if I am in that zone, basically. So if I'm in that zone, I will write about how I will change things in my company. How, if I had superpowers, I will change things in the management and all that. If I am a student, let's say, and if I'm a fresher, so maybe if I'm in that zone of thinking capability of a student, then I will write about how I will change the examination patterns, how I will, make things work other ways. So, but the whole point here is that to come out of your thinking process, to come out of how you think, and to come out of your zone basically, and to think about a greater problem that you can solve if you had superpower. So, at the looking at the current scenario, I had there was a situation that when my VAT was being conducted, Russia had attacked Ukraine at that point of time itself, a few days back, and world peace, I think, was a very important topic at that point of time. So I, moved or switched my thinking power to how I can utilize this superpower to a greater use, and how I can be helpful in creating world peace overall, all over the world, So you have to think like that. You have to think in a manner that is applicable to everybody, how you can solve a greater problem, greater issue, not your personal issue, because personal issues, obviously, yeah, we all want to solve, but that does not create an impact, because the person reading your VAT might not have faced the same issue. But if your issue is a greater issue which can resolve other problems also, then your issue might relate to people, and your VAT will be just out of the world. So in questions like, if I had superpower, you can answer like what we have just discussed. So yes, so like I said, I wrote about world peace, how people have forgotten that world peace is a very important and a crucial topic. And if I had superpowers, I will re-inculcate into the minds of people the idea of world peace, and non-violence, and uh, yeah, non-violence. So I also mentioned the examples of Gautam Buddha and Mahatma Gandhi. So I was able to, imbibe these two people in my VAT, and so this overall, how you create the paragraph. First, start with the introduction, that if you had superpower, so it's very abstract topic, you cannot really have an introduction for that. You cannot, because if you start giving an introduction, if you start writing the history of superpowers, you start writing the history of these people, like, who have superpowers, like superheroes, so it will become very large, and the VAT is only a para or prose of 200 to 300 words. So you have to keep it very crisp. You have to keep the introduction crisp, you have to keep the body crisp, and you have to keep the conclusion crisp. You have to use words you have to use one word for many words. You have to have a lot of vocabulary at that point of time. You have to have a lot of, you cannot also use quotes at that point of time, because quotes are, what do you say, quotes are impactful, but quotes also need an explanation, or they also need a supporting statement that why are you using this quote. So you cannot use a quote very quick, very abstractly in a written ability test, because you only have 300 words to use, a space of only 300 words. So of course you can increase your words by 10 or 15 words, but only if you have been given a target of using only 300 word space, then you should do that, I think. So it's very easy also, it's not very difficult to write something in 200 to 300 words if you channelize your thoughts. And also because the time capacity is less, you have to write things, you have to think, you have to write, you have to type in 10 to 15 minutes. So that's a very quick time scenario where you have to think quickly, you have to write quickly, and you have to just end it. Because sometimes we keep thinking, we keep arranging our thoughts, and it becomes really time taking, and till the time we are just starting to type, it becomes very hazy, and it becomes very hustly, and you're just not able to give your conclusion, and you are not left satisfied with your bat. So think short, think crisp, end it. Just think of 3 lines first: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. Elaborate it in two lines each. So you cover, 200 and 300 words are just complete in that. So I think you can complete your VAT in this manner and not be worried at that point of time also. But you have to channelize your thought in that manner. Yeah. So this was all about my VAT and how I approached my VAT. Next was the GD session, which was uh, the GD question that I had was state of newspapers in India. So this was a very interesting round actually. I really liked the GD round because sometimes what happens that the whole group, it is drifting away from your topic, and it was really interesting. I'll just share with you people the experience. Uh, that's why I was saying that the interview was quite, the whole process was very interesting, because I really liked the process and the experience of it. So in the GD, the topic was the state of newspapers in India. And what happens is that people just keep, start an argument in the start only, that I will, I want to start first, I want to start first, and it becomes very hustly. So they had done a very good job. Here they actually started with one person each giving an opening statement. Then there was an open floor where everyone was discussing their point of views, and in the end there was a 1 minute conclusion round where everybody had to give their own conclusion. So there was no pressure of starting the round first, and there was no pressure of concluding the round first. So because generally there is this confusion of starting and ending. So it was really interesting. Uh, in the starting statements, I remember that somebody did not hear the topic correctly, and when he started, and he was called out first for starting the GD, and he really he was speaking something else, and we all thought that, oh, did we hear something wrong? So the interviewer corrected him that no, this, I think you did not hear the topic correctly, and you this is the topic. Please just take your statements, make your statements again, and come back again. So I was called next. The whole GD topic was state of newspapers in India. So actually, here what comes is that what reading you have been doing over these past uh, year of preparation for your cat and bat. So it's really impossible to prepare for a topic of GD in 1 week. So what you have to do is that while you are studying for cat and bat as that, we have a section of reading comprehension and verbal ability. So there only, when you are doing your reading comprehension, you have to read the paragraphs that you're reading very ardently, because those are literal paras, those are cat proses, and those are, I think that those proses and paragraphs are heavily researched paragraphs. Some paragraphs are on philosophy, some paragraphs are on statistics, some paragraphs are on state of women in India, state of newspapers, state of children, kids, food scarcity in the world, water problems. Many articles, many paragraphs we are reading thoroughly in the preparation of cat and zat. So you do not have the time to read or reread it again, because you will never get that time actually, because when you are preparing only, you are giving a lot of time to it. So I think that you have to keep in mind that these things and these situations may arise, and you have to go for a GD, and maybe this is the topic that can come in your GD. Okay, so I think that I must have read around 200 or 300 paragraphs now, after all the preparations that I have done for cat and zat. So I did not have to read something else or read exclusively or prepare exclusively for GD. I had read an article related to state of newspapers in the world, basically. So I was able to inculate some points from that, uh, you know, just collate some points from that, and I was able to put forward in the GD session. So, so some points that came to my mind at that point of time, I will share with you guys. So, what happens that we see you have to give, basically it was an introductory round where you had to give 2 to 3 statements in the introduction. You cannot just give all of your points that you have made or jotted down at that point at once, because then you, in the GD, in the discussion, you will have nothing to say. You, what you will say will be repeated only. So I started with giving a statement regarding the newspapers state that I think that the state of newspapers in India is constantly declining, on a decline, because we see that the newspapers are flooded with advertisements, are flooded with political reviews, political views, and political agendas these days, which gives very less space for actual news, for very less space for the views of people, which gives a very less space for editorials, good writings, sports, and every most of other things, or the plight of common man. So I started with these 2 points, and while the discussion, I had made other points as well, and while the discussion, I kept those points one by one, so that all my points are not exhausted in the introductory part itself. So yes, I spoke 2 to 3 sentences more, and I ended my introductory part, and then others were called. So somebody made a really, so you also, in the GD, you also have to listen to what other people are saying, because what you have thought, maybe other people have thought more than you, and they have more points that you might have missed while your thinking process. So when they think, you think counterly, or you think similarly, so you have new points also. Like someone said that newspapers are a fading thing, And we will not need newspapers very soon, because we will be shifting to Kindle, we will be shifting to digital platforms, we will be shifting to uh, apps and e-newspapers. So then you have to make a counterpoint that no, it's not a very viable option. I mean, it can be anything. What how you feel like. It's my viewpoint that no, this is very not viable, because not everybody has access to Kindle, to e-newspapers, and this industry remain should be here to remain, because newspaper is something that, yeah, so as I was saying, so newspaper is something that people from daily wages also read, that people who are earning daily wages are also reading, migrant workers are also reading, people who are working in our homes are also reading. So the ground level people who are really attached to the ground, who are working on the ground, who are just working hand to mouth, are also reading, and that's a very important source of news for them, or I should say that is the only credible source of news for them these days. So we cannot say that newspaper industry will fade, or it should be, you know it should end. So after this, one more point that was really interesting was made by someone, was that newspapers are something that okay, so before this I would like to mention something more, that while they were discussing Kindle and books and all that, so the topic suddenly shifted to digital, reading, digital reading, and then the topic completely shifted from state of newspapers in India to digital reading and digital world, and how reading completely will have a digitalization. So at this point of time, you can say, if you think that the topic is deviating, then you can mention that yes, we should stick to the topic and discuss about the topic, and we should come back to the point. So someone after that, someone mentioned that newspapers are not good for the environment, and the state of newspaper is really dismal in India, and newspapers should not be continued, should not be used now. So you know, I think that these were not the points that you make for state of newspapers in India. I think that what uh, what should be applied to this topic should be like that how much awareness do we have about the shifting course of narrative of newspapers. So the narrative that is completely changed within these 5 to 10 years of newspapers should be mentioned here. How we have seen the newspaper change from you know producing actual news to producing advertisements. So whenever I open the newspaper, especially the Hindi publishers newspapers in the morning, what I see is full advertisements, full page advertisements, half a page advertisements, and advertisements, and narratives that are being set by the political parties who are in power. How we have seen opposition shifting to a particular column in a newspaper, and shifting to a side, and the opposing views, the oppositional views shifting to a side, and a view of the majority that is being spread, a view of these things. I think we should uh, observe, and this was the point that should have been made. Of course, we should talk about the state of the publishing sector also, the publishing houses also of newspapers, because yes, digital economy is something which is emerging, and it might overtake the publishing houses in the future, but in the near future I think that it is not very viable. Because everybody is not really capable of reading something, on their phone. Obviously everybody has phones in their hand, but the sense or the feeling of reading that rusty newspaper, the crackling sound of the paper when you read it in the morning, is something that cannot be taken away from anyone in India, at least I believe. So because yes, this cannot be denied that newspaper is something that reaches the uh, you know the most ground work, worker person in India, because it is available in 1 or 2 rupees to everybody. And this newspaper is something that knows no inequality. It is available in rupee 1 to a daily wage worker also, and to an industrialist also. A newspaper is something that a person uh, riding from a Mercedes also reads on a roadside tea stall, and somebody riding a bicycle also reads the same newspaper on a roadside tea stall. So newspapers should not be underestimated, and they should be thought about. And so these are things that I am actually thinking about now. These things I did not speak there, but yes, I am speaking here because I think that we should shift our thinking process in that way. In my concluding remarks, I said that yes, there is a decline in the newspaper industry and the state of newspapers in India, but we should bring it back to the old glory with content, with good content, with good editors, with the help of good editors, and we should try doing an unbiased publishing, an unbiased writing, and with the interest, bringing back the interest of the common man. So these were my concluding remarks, and others gave their concluding remarks as well. The moderators were seemed happy, and the discussion was good. In my discussion, there was no attack on somebody. There was no fight. It was a very mature group. So I think that it was a really good group discussion. The whole point is that you should keep and understand it, things in a manner, for while you are reading things from the articles, when you are reading paragraphs, it's very difficult to read something and grasp something in 1 week or 2 week. Moving ahead to the personal interview round, and I will be sharing with you the questions that were asked to me. Okay. So these were the interview round questions you can see here. So yeah, just give me a second. Okay. So sorry, pardon the spellings. I will be correcting these spellings and adding these questions and everything in the description box. You can see them there as well. So it was a very basic interview round, and they were, I think, in a hurry. So the interview just concluded in about 1 or 2 minutes, 5 minutes, I think. So yeah, the interview kind of started with the introduction, that is, introduce yourself, and why do you want to do an MBA, and introduce your family also was asked to me. So after that, they just came on the question that what calls you have received in your, what other calls you have received from which colleges. So I told them the other calls that I had received, and yeah, I think what they wanted, I just told them. Then I think that, yeah, there was a question on Ukraine and Russia stand. This was a very relevant question actually. So recently, also in my company itself, we face this issue that our company, most companies, I think, after the sanctions from the US, most US companies are also banning or giving sanctions on Russia. So some IT companies also are having or getting sanctions on Russia, and are also ending their operations in Russia. So this was one point that I made, that people of Russia are feeling, you know, neglect. I think that they are feeling neglect. They are being, you know, being marginalized because of something that their leaders are doing, and they do not deserve this. So I gave my point of view, because he asked me that what will be the impact of the Russia and Ukraine war on the IT industry, which I am working in. So this was my stand, that there, obviously in Ukraine, since everybody is now a refugee, so uh, people have lost their jobs. People have are struggling to earn a livelihood. People are struggling to live in in Ukraine, but in Russia also, people are facing sanctions. People are being fired from various companies because of something which their leaders are doing. So I think that this is not a very great step, and this should really be called off. The war should be called off very, very soon. So this was my stand. Uh, Technologies that I have worked on, they asked me that what technologies are you working on in your job and in the industry. And yeah, after that they asked me again that what calls have you got, and can you share them again. And I shared with them again the calls that I have received, and that was an end to my personal interview round. It was a very amicable interview, and I really liked the whole process. Everything was very organized and very well mannered, well paced. So this was all about the Goa Institute of Management that I really wanted to share with you all, because yeah, I really liked the interview process. And so this is the end of that. End of that. And if you like the video, please do let me know if you have any questions. And if you like the video, please like, share, and subscribe. And do let me know if you have any questions. In the next video, I will be covering the interview round of Narsi Monji, Institute of Management Studies. So I gave the NMAT exam as well. So I will be sharing the cutoffs, the calls that I received, and the interview processes that I went through, and the questions that were asked for Narsi Monji Institute, for all the branches basically. So I'll be sharing an overall video for NIMS, Mumbai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, for business management and business analytics as well. So see you in the next video. Stay tuned.